Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and electronics. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. Actually, you got to redo that because I had you on mute. I apologize. Do that again.
Oh, I'm your co-host, Carissa.
Perfect. It was even better the second time. Don't worry, folks. Carissa, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
It's as I said before the show, it got crazy in like the last 20 minutes, but I'm here, I'm alive. I'm glad that you're here, and of course I'm glad that all of our audience is here to join us today for none other than Ralph Bond. He is a longtime Computer America correspondent, our science and tech trends correspondent, everything that has to do with science tech, mostly futuristic, and well, actually a lot of it very, very modern day, because hey, it's happening right now. And it's stuff that isn't all that depressing, although I won't lie, sometimes we have talked about the occasional killer drone, here and there, but hey, who hasn't? And yeah, Ralph Bond will be joining us here in just a moment. So everyone, welcome into the Computer America program. Before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, articles, reviews, podcasts, all that kind of thing. Anything that we do with Computer America, you can find right there. You can find right there. So everyone, and of course, Computer America social media. I think that should be good for now. Carissa, if you don't have anything else, why don't we go ahead and bring in Ralph?
Yeah, bring him in.
Perfect. So everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful Friday, and it's about to get a whole lot better. Once again, Ralph Bond, he's been a longtime friend of the show. He's been with us through the Intel ages, through the Autodesk ages, and hey, now he's on his own, and he is the full-fledged correspondent for Computer America. Ralph, how you doing? Welcome back on.
I'm doing great, and it's so great to have Carissa on board with this segment as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It should be a lot of fun. This is the first time that you two have been on together, and I think it's for what we do here and how we do it. I think Chris is going to be a great addition to the whole segment. So I'm happy that Ralph, that you finally get to meet her. And speaking of which, why don't you go ahead for all of the new listeners and Carissa as well, just kind of talk about what your mission is here to by coming on Computer America. How do you find how do you sort your stories? What is the intent of you being here on Computer America?
Yeah, what I try to do is I kind of act as an aggregator of interesting stories from science and technology, mostly in the research area, as Ben was alluding to, kind of looking at the future, but not always. Some of the things that we talk about are here and now and ready today, but a lot of it's kind of coming up around the bend. And I monitor so many different science and technology news outlets, and then I look for the stuff that appeals to me and I hope will appeal to you as well, aggregated together into the show notes. Now, friends, come out to computeramerica.com. You'll get the show notes. The show notes will have the links and notes and pictures and so forth that we're going to discuss today. If you're listening to us audio only, you're going to want to get the show notes. And then there's a running joke Ben and I have, and Carissa, you're going to find out this is true too. It's extremely rare that we get through all of the stories that I bring each month to the show. So the show notes can be kind of like a homework assignment for you to go out and check out the stuff we don't get a chance to cover.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, with and Carissa, with you here now, I'm sure that things will go at an even better pace. So,
Well, I'm excited.
hey, we're excited too. So, and Ralph, you said that beautifully. Everyone, again, we'll have the show notes up after the show when it's available as a podcast or just after the live airing today. We'll have that up there. And of course, you can check out Ralph's site where, he does a good job of, kind of categorizing and, all of the past videos, all the show notes, all that kind of stuff, all available right there. So, and yeah. So, Ralph, why don't we go ahead and just get started? Story number 1. Let's get going.
Okay, this one's really fun. Now, the source here is Boston University. Very impressive. The headline, Tiny Decoy Sponges Attract Coronavirus Away from Lung Cells. Well, I couldn't resist that headline, right, from their press release. So here we go in the story. We've got a link, of course, to the press release itself on the notes for you to check out later. Mm-hmm. But here we go. Imagine if scientists could stop the coronavirus infecting our lungs simply by diverting its attention away from normal lung cells. A decoy scheme. Pretty cool, huh? That's what a team of researchers from Boston University and the University of California, San Diego plan to do with an ingenious decoy approach to fool, trap, and then kill the coronavirus. Here's how it works. First, they took nano-sized drops of soft biodegradable polymers, each one 1,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. Wow. These drops are so tiny, vast numbers of them could be introduced into a patient's lungs using a simple nasal spray. That's one of the things I think is so great about this. Each droplet is covered in fragments of modified living lung cells and immune cell membranes designed to be irresistible to the coronavirus. Here's how the decoy trick works. The fragments of lung cell and immune cell membranes combined with the droplets have none of the internal cellular properties or mechanics of normal living lung cells. The virus needs those cellular properties to successfully infect lung tissue. So, when the coronavirus binds with the decoy droplet cell fragments, the coronavirus can't replicate and then dies.
Interesting.
Ha! Isn't that something? Right now, this is in an early lab testing stage, and deployment is yet to be determined. So again, this is a good example of something that's coming up around the bend, not here
Ralph,
today.
I was just telling Carissa the other day, if only we could find some way to, I guess, snort sponges, this whole coronavirus thing would be gone in just overnight. How do they come up with this stuff? It's crazy.
Oh, it's a guys, it's a great example of the international and often collaborative work. This is a good case, 2 universities working together. Research on so many fronts. Not just looking for vaccines, but looking how we can thwart it from the get-go before you even need a vaccine, God willing. So This is a great story on all those levels. And by the way, one last note, an added super bonus that was put out in the press release is this approach has the potential to be adapted to combat virtually any virus, including influenza and even Ebola. So, wow, this nasal spray thing and these micro, tiny little droplets, what a cool idea.
I'm not sure how I feel about having them in your lungs, though. I feel like it should be like a mask or something that you would put on or something that covers your orifices,
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I'd be afraid of them getting somehow embedded in your own lungs. I see that they are obviously different cells than that, and they probably won't. But I would be afraid that the body would somehow adapt to that and then hang on to that anyway.
Interesting. Yeah. And I would presume these researchers have kind of thought about that and maybe done tests to ensure that it doesn't introduce any harm, because obviously introducing harm would be completely opposite of what they're trying to do to trap and decoy the nasty coronavirus.
It's an interesting idea, though.
It definitely seems like the decoy cells and their ability to attract the virus over your own body cell. Great idea, but I'm kind of on Carissa with this one. I'm wondering how your body reacts to it, and I would imagine if because they're making it out of pretty simple stuff, your body would just kind of filter it out as it does many other dead cells in your body. But I guess these kind of decoy cells are essentially dead cells that would just be filtered out over time. So very interesting. I'm interested to hear that, like you said, this isn't like a traditional vaccine. This isn't, training your body's
No.
immune system to target these cells. And like you said, with the super bonus, it would work with other things. And that's exciting.
Yeah, it is cool.
Perfect. Story number 1 gives us hope. Story number 2, don't take it away, Ralph. What is this?
Yeah, what we need for story 2, friends, is you both may be too young to remember the Fifth Dimension song group and their song "Up, Up and Away in a Beautiful Balloon." It's really goes way back, but oldsters will know. Yeah, it's good. Would you like to ride in my beautiful balloon? Oh, I'll stop. Story from CNET, which was posted on MSN.com. Headline: Space Perspective, that's the name of the company, wants to sell balloon rides to the edge of space. And I've got the links. And also I researched this on the United Kingdom's Evening Standard. So this story got a lot of pickup. It's because it's kind of literally out there and sort of fun. You can see the images on the show notes, and there's a video as well. So here we go. A Florida-based company called Space Perspective plans to start testing its passenger balloon designed to reach the edge of space as early as next year. The balloon design is based on technology NASA has used for decades to fly large research telescopes. Let me try that again. Technology NASA has used for decades to fly large research telescopes high above the Earth. Now, when in operation within the next few years, it's going to be a couple of years, 8 passengers and a pilot would travel up to 100,000 feet to the stratosphere in a reusable, pressurized capsule suspended from a balloon that is, get this, as wide as a football field. Wow. It will take approximately 2 hours to ascend 19 miles above the Earth. Satellite communications, no surprise, will enable passengers to post on social media and share photos while they're on their journey. And for its main launch site, the company plans to use the Pacific Spaceport Complex in Kodiak, Alaska. Next, though, Space Perspective plans to complete an unmanned test flight from the shuttle landing facility at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida next year. So that is coming up. Okay, time for ticket shock. You guys have the show notes. The audience out there doesn't. They don't see what this is going to cost. They anticipate the ticket for this journey, the 6-hour ride, will be $125,000 per person.
Maybe not maybe not for the average family, but maybe for the corporate retreat.
The corporate retreat. Yeah.
If it's on the company ticket, there you go.
Yeah. Pretty wild, huh?
Does that mean Computer America is going to sponsor some tickets?
Absolutely. Ralph's coming with us. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do it. But here's one thing.
Go ahead, Ralph. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I thought about, and it's not explained in this story. So a balloon is a balloon, right? If you've ever been in a hot air balloon, and I have, it's kind of a gamble, as it were, as to where you can land. There's no doubt about where you start off, but where you land, you also often have a trailing vehicle that follows the balloon, and they're in radio communications to say, based on weather and wind current conditions and so forth, well, I think we can land in this farm field over here, or what, but there's no guarantee. So when you go way the heck up into the stratosphere and then try to come back down, I would love to talk to these guys. How do you ensure you know exactly where you're going to land and retrieve the capsule and the passengers? So that's one thing that came to my mind.
You mentioned that the first place they're going to try this is going to be on the West Coast and the Pacific Spaceport in Alaska. First of all, Alaska, a lot of open space. But second of all, if it's anywhere near the ocean, I can imagine, much like instead of a truck, it would be a boat. And just like recovering a space capsule, they would recover this the exact same way.
It'd be an interesting way to end your journey, though, getting seasick.
Being dunked in the ocean, very, very unceremonious. But I don't know many people that would like to go 100,000 feet in a non-guidable craft. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
It is.
And of course they say about 6-hour flight. The edge of space, I don't know if, and Ralph, you might know this better than I do. Is that weightlessness or like just on the edge? Because I know with like planes, they go up there and then on the descent you get weightlessness, but not just being up there.
Google it. Somebody Google it right now, because that's a great question. Because you know how they have the aircraft to train our astronauts and so forth, and they get up to a certain point. Well, actually, they fake anti-gravity by just descending real fast.
Yeah, but they do get up that high.
You know what? I wonder if that is, because they didn't mention that. You would think, well, it's a pressurized capsule, but then again, it couldn't thwart gravity, so it must not be enough to be weightless. I'm just guessing.
Probably not.
That's a good Google Google trivia question.
Yeah, what are the effects of the stratosphere? But I can imagine that it's just an amazing view. Unfortunately,
the view you can see from the images. You see from the images they provided, the kind of view you'll have will be just mind-boggling.
And by the way, the second image here, the one of it over Florida, best way to see Florida from a good distance. So there you go. Okay, everyone. So
be nice.
Hey, as someone from Florida, I'm allowed to say that.
I know.
So with that being said, that's story number 2. And Carissa, by the way, real quick, would you do it? Nope.
Probably not, considering I don't like being either in the water or that high in the air. So both of those seem like bad options to me. The going up is bad and the coming down is bad. But I'm also wondering if it's going to be more than 8 passengers eventually for something that's as big as a football field. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the balloon itself. The balloon is this big. The capsule is, I'm not quite sure what its dimensions are. Yeah, if you look at the picture, you can see the ratio. It's not that huge of a capsule.
Well, yeah. And the article that, let's see, I think it was this one, you can actually like kind of see people kind of milling around in there. Almost like a small-ish conference room kind of deal, I can imagine.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine that this would take off better than Tesla, or I'm sorry, not Tesla, SpaceX, and their dreams of commercial spaceflight. Or
that I think is much more viable.
Yeah, and Virgin Galactic as well. They're working on it too. Just waiting for Disney Planet, whatever the next Disney in space is going to be. That's probably what we're going to wait on. So,
yes.
Story number 2. And by the way, I actually did find the song. I don't know where the chorus would be, but let's see if I get DMCA'd for this. Let's check real quick.
Yes, that's it.
Your balloon. Yes. Right, that's it. So up and away. There we go. We found it. Okay.
Yes.
There we go. There's that smash hit from 1967. Fun fact.
See, that just shows how old I am.
Ralph, you look gorgeous. Now, story number 3.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and talk about face mask. And when it comes to face masks have been one of those topics that are so vital for frontline, first responders or frontline workers, and the whole N95, the medical grade, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I always found it funny that some of the best masks that you can wear out there in public to protect yourself and, of course, to protect others are homemade. Multiple layers of fabric, and a lot of people who sew are starting to make their own mask, and they're very very effective. I always found that funny that some of the best things that you could do are do it yourself, and this looks to be, I guess, another take on mask.
Well, it is. And what this is, to set the stage for this story, think for a moment about emergency room people, nurses, doctors, etc., technicians, and so forth. And they might be working in a large urban area, San Francisco, Los Angeles, you pick your big city, Miami, where they might have people coming in with many different language capabilities in addition to English. So wouldn't it be cool if you could have a cover for your face mask that could translate your voice into 9 languages? That's what this story is all about. It's from the Rob Report. We've got the link. We've even got a video and so forth. But let me give the story to you here. So, a Japanese startup company with the funny name of Donut Robotics, I don't know why Donut, but anyway, Donut Robotics has developed a high-tech, internet-connected smart mask they call C, that's C as in Charlie dash mask, C mask. The plastic C mask fits over standard face masks. So it's not in lieu of your mask that you have on, whatever you're using. It goes over that, right? And connects wirelessly using Bluetooth to a smartphone or tablet application. The C mask can translate and transcribe multiple languages, including Japanese, English, Chinese, French, Korean, Thai, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And that's, I'm sure, just the start. As an added bonus, when used with a smartphone, you can make phone calls using voice commands, and the mask can also amplify your voice, something that could help people who must wear a mask all day at work, like your ER folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
The C mask will cost $40 a piece. That's pretty reasonable. And the first shipment of 5,000 masks will arrive in Japan starting in September, with later shipments set for China, the United States, and Europe. So if this thing works, it could be transformative for ER workers in multi-language environments, say in our major urban areas.
Absolutely.
And really, the technology behind it, I like it because I almost immediately understand how they did this. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot to the marketing and the packaging and the actual production of a lot of these.
Right.
$40 is amazing, but like when you really think about it, it's putting a Bluetooth speaker and a Bluetooth microphone and connecting it to a smartphone, just like
Yep.
you would any other Bluetooth speaker or microphone, and having it. Essentially just have it, Google Translate running in the background.
Yes.
And
yes.
it would broadcast through the mask.
Yeah. Genius. I mean, it's a genius packaging idea. Your point's well made. It's not like it's breathtaking technology on the component parts, but it's the coming together. Smart idea.
That's what I like about, though, is that it's not like, it's like, oh, how did they ever do that? It's like, oh, it's like you said, great packaging. And if you can imagine how it's done, that means that it's probably not just a fake product that someone's trying to sell. Like, this is very, very
right.
real. I personally wish, if they're going all out with the tech, this is just a random video I pulled up of a lady who is showing off her LED mask. And, the one in the show notes is very, very stylish, very sleek and modern. But this is one that, she kind of has, and it has essentially
that's
pixels.
Cool.
Pixels in it, and the mask, you can kind of see it works as kind of like a volume equalizer, and she's showing a bunch of different products that have the LEDs built in, but then she's doing it for her mask. And I wish that this mask had something kind of similar that, if nothing else, kind of mimicked the mouth moving. That I think that
would be funny.
Oh yeah.
And cool.
Yeah, but to pack the technology into it, very, very cool. And hey, maybe get people to wear masks who would otherwise, not want to. So there you go. And by the way, first shipment 5,000 to China, United States, and Europe. Makes sense. This is going to those places. So very cool, Ralph. I'm glad that you found that one.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
For sure. So with that, you just had to throw the bug in there, didn't you? Story number 4.
I'm so excited for this one.
If you're squeamish, yes, story number 4.
Story number 4 comes out of Washington University in St. Louis. Story by Beth Miller. And it's engineers are creating bomb-sniffing cyborg locusts. Yes. Okay, is this weird? This is weird science. I promised you weird. I'm giving you weird today.
This is weird.
We got a link, we got pictures, we've got a couple of videos in the show notes, friends, so you can see this, and Ben is playing one of them right now. So here we go. Researchers at Washington University in St. Louis are looking to capitalize on the amazing sense of smell locusts have. This was news to me, not that I should know everything about locusts, but it's kind of fascinating. The goal is to turn the locusts into flying, remote-controlled, bio-robotic sensing systems that can fly into areas inaccessible to a bomb-sniffing dog. To accelerate the research, the university recently received a 3-year, $750,000 grant from the Office of Naval Research. Okay, here's how the cyborg locusts work. First, a little background. Gross. I know, it's so weird, isn't it? First, a little background. Locusts have antennae with hundreds of thousands of sniffing sensors. Who knew? After years of research, the university team found that they could tap the brains of locusts and monitor how they identify specific odors, even in a complex environment filled with many other odors. To do that, they developed a tiny, remote-controlled computer chip attached to the back of the locust with an electrode implanted in the insect's brain. This is weird. And no battery is needed to run the chip. The locust's movements generate the power needed to power the chip. Okay, you think this is a joke? It's so weird. With the brain implanted electrode, the researchers can monitor the neural activity in the brain to train the locust to recognize certain odors. For example, dynamite, TNT. When a cyborg locust is deployed to a target location and a specific odor is detected, the chip wirelessly transmits the information back to the human monitor. To control, you're going to love this, to control the locust's flight direction, the researchers have applied a light-activated, heat-producing, ultra-thin film tattoo on the wings.
So not only are they cyborgs, but they're super cool because they have tattoos.
With a tattoo. Awesome. That would go over well here in Portland, Oregon, I can tell you that much. Light shined on the left or right wing produces heat, which controls flight direction. Just let that sink in for a second. It's just, what? And once they reach the target location, these cyborg locusts can find and then collect samples of target organic compounds and bring them back for analysis. Isn't that wild? This is a great example of biomedical engineering, material science, and computer scientists all working together. So weird. I just love this story. And as far as I can tell, it's not a joke. It's real.
So the first thing I wanted to say, and this is more of a biological fact than anything else, Ralph and Carissa, open question to both of you. Do you know the difference between a grasshopper and a locust?
Oh, I've heard it, but I've forgotten now. I've forgotten.
Carissa?
I think one's bigger and maybe has a bigger brain.
Close. They're actually the same thing, but one has, a grasshopper is a grasshopper until it is introduced to serotonin. Serotonin, of course, being the feel-good drug in people's bodies. A little bit of that, and it actually, in a lab, they say that it can take about 3 hours for a grasshopper to turn into a very aggressive locust. So
weird.
Yeah, they're actually the exact same. And I guess the reason that they make them turn into locusts is because of, the physiological changes that happen. They're kind of tougher, can fly farther, that kind of thing. So,
wait a minute, Ben. Ben, wait a minute. The real question is, why would you know such a bizarre and obscure thing? I love it. But that's really, talk about weird. You think I'm weird? That's weird, buddy.
First, Google. Second, second, my entire high school, I went to the Environmental Science Academy. So I'm very familiar with, fish. But with that being said, I feel like this is going to be one of the stories, Ralph, that, way back when you had a story about self-healing concrete, you had another one about robots doing, drones that would automatically deploy life preservers and for lifeguards and things like that. I feel like this is going to be one of those stories that just kind of sticks in my head, and it's like, that was so weird. This is going to make an impact. Robot controlled cyborg locust.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Resistance is futile.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, now the locusts are the Borg. I can definitely see that. And Carissa, to your question a little bit earlier in the article about how they collect samples, Ralph, that's actually a pretty good question. I mean, I guess they would just kind of take a little nibble of the TNT and bring it back for analysis, I guess.
Maybe, or it just gets the material in question, if it's some kind of powder form, gets on their bodies. Yeah. So there are a few things that are not answered in the press announcement, but what a bizarre and interesting thing, especially that ultra thin tattoo business and the light creating heat, which in turn activates or deactivates a wing left, right to guide the locust. Just like, wow.
Yeah, and I think locusts are they're pretty simple in that I don't think they have a lot of pain receptors. So,
I hope not.
The locusts are
anyway.
Yeah, and so I think the locusts are just little machines already, and now we're just making them even smarter.
There it is.
Very, very interesting, and wow, I'm sure that that lab has to be like, hey, where's that order of 10,000 crickets? We need to defuse some bombs. I don't get it. Story number 5.
Yes, this takes us back once again a little bit here into the world of COVID, coronavirus, but a really kind of an interesting twist. It's another example of research and technology that's being applied not to look for a virus, but to help for either detection or to fight the virus, not as a vaccine. Okay. So the headline here is researchers in Switzerland are working on an artificial intelligence based system that can listen to your cough and help indicate whether you have COVID-19. Wow. So the source of this is from the company in question or the researchers in question in Switzerland. It's the Embedded Systems Lab website had this announcement. And again, they're in Switzerland. We've got a link. We've got a video for you as well. And there's an illustration here in the show notes that kind of gives the essence of what's going on. But here we go. Dry coughs are one of the symptoms of coronavirus. So that's the basis of this whole research. What if there was a free at-home self-test you could take to determine if your cough is symptomatic of a coronavirus? That's what a team of researchers from the Embedded Systems Lab in Switzerland is working on. It's called the CoughVid, so the word cough and then VID, CoughVid Initiative. Here's how it works. First, you install the team's smartphone app, so it's smartphone based. Then you record your coughing. Your digital recording is then uploaded to a cloud-based storage system and then downloaded to the lab's servers. CoughVid then uses artificial intelligence to analyze your recording to see if it matches the classic sound pattern of a coronavirus cough. Cool. This is a sophisticated artificial intelligence diagnostic approach modeled after the way doctors rely on their personal experience of listening to their patients' coughs to diagnose, for example, asthma or pneumonia. The results of your cough are then sent back to your phone's CoughVid app. And right now, the Embedded Systems Lab research team is asking for volunteers to submit recordings. You can go out to their website and check that out. The goal is to train their artificial intelligence program to distinguish between the coughs of people with COVID-19 or people with other kinds of respiratory ailments. The thought that a COVID-19 cough would have such a unique sound pattern to it, relatively speaking, is fascinating to me. That's the part that makes me scratch my head a little bit and think, how could it be that articulate or that unique? But kudos for at least trying this effort and another creative attempt to fight the coronavirus.
Definitely. And while you were doing that, hopefully you two didn't hear me coughing.
Were you coughing?
Yes. Well, yeah, because I went to CoughVid, coughvid.epfl.ch.
There you go. I see it on your screen.
Yeah, and I submitted my cough pattern, and they even say that, what is your condition? And I put healthy, so they now have an example of a healthy, normal cough. And
as far as you know, Ben, we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, I've actually been quarantining for the last 93 months.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I'm actually very good at this. But I got to say that I submitted it. It was very, very simple, and I like how they did that. The only thing I can imagine is that, obviously, COVID is a type of SARS. SARS interacts differently than, let's say, a flu or pneumonia or something like that. Ralph, after doing so many of these stories that data, and when you get a lot of it, if these guys got 100,000 coughs, 1 million coughs that they could analyze and put into a giant data set, they'd be able to pick up patterns. They'd have little minute things that it's almost like being able to hear someone talk, and I guess they have AI that can pick up signs of like depression or something like that just by the sound of your voice. Oh, that's
interesting. Yes.
With enough data, Ralph, anything is possible.
Well, that's a very good point. And again, I don't think their intent is to say it's a foolproof and total diagnostic thing, meaning to say, well, your
Step
sound
0.5
pattern indicates it. But what it might do is say, hey, your sound pattern indicates could be COVID-19 related dry cough. So check with your doctor. It could be that kind of thing, not trying to be an be-all, end-all solution.
Yeah, step 0.5, obviously this is not conclusive or anything like that, but it could say, hey, you should check this out. And yeah, absolutely. It's Carissa, I encourage you to go cough into your microphone as well.
I'll do that when we get off here.
Everybody in broadcast should do it.
Absolutely. Very, very high quality coughs we have.
I'll share it on the book face too.
Oh, there you go.
There
Good
you
idea.
go. So perfect. Story number 5, story number 6. You're into robots today, and yeah, I'm perfectly okay with that. Story number 6.
Yeah, this comes from futurism.com, a fun website. Headline: Scientists build Terminator-style robot jaws to chew drug-laced gum. How can you resist that
But
headline?
why?
Well, we're going to find out. Here we go. Story by Victor Tangerman, again on futurist.com. And we've got the link for you and a photo and so forth. So let's set the stage. We're all familiar with tablets you put under your tongue to quickly dispense a medication orally, usually within about 30 seconds to a minute. Mm-hmm. That's great. But what if you want to dispense a drug orally, but at a much slower rate? Enter the idea of using chewing gum to orally but slowly introduce a medication. But here's the problem with that idea to date. A lack of standards in testing the use of chewing gum as a drug dispensing method have held back making this a widely used treatment option. To come up with a standardized testing method, a team of researchers from the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom built a set of robot jaws that can chew gum much like a human. You can imagine you couldn't get too many volunteers.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The image is, it's a little blurry.
It is a blurry image.
It's like a little bit blurry, but once you see what it actually is, and it's kind of like, it almost reminds me of Alien, the jaws before the little thing comes out of its mouth.
Terminator.
Well, not Turner, but Alien.
I know what you mean.
The xenomorph, because it's only like the front teeth. It's not the whole jaw set. But man, that is kind of horrifying. You're right.
It's creepy. So the idea again is these robot jaws will emulate how a human would chew gum, and it's because having volunteers sitting there chomping away for hours and hours is just, you could do it, but this gives them a scientifically controllable diagnostic tool or measurement tool, if you will. So now here's the funny part. The robot even features artificial saliva to allow for xylitol, a common sugar substitute in gum, to dissolve. They are using xylitol to imitate dissolvable drugs for their testing purposes. In an experiment, the team compared how much xylitol remained in a stick of gum after the robot jaws had a go at it versus human participants. So they are comparing with some human participants. They found that the release rate of xylitol was comparable between the robot and the human volunteer participants. So, as a viable stand-in for human subjects, the robot jaws will help speed up the validation of drug dispensing chewing gum and its future use as a treatment option. Because once again, these jaws could go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't matter. So it's kind of it's a wacky thing, but the idea of chewing gum as a way to dispense a drug in a slow, even fashion, ultimately not requiring a medical person to be supervising it. Here, Joe, just take this chewing gum when you got a symptom and go for it and let me know how you're doing. It's interesting to me. I thought that was really cool.
It's very cool, and this actually piggybacks a lot on a discussion I saw the other day. And Ralph and Chris, I don't know if you know too much about it, but it was a conversation about standards when it comes to testing drugs and other things in a clinical setting. I guess there's a disproportionate amount of white males in clinical trials, because I think a lot of clinical trials happen either in universities, like, just kind of how they get their test subjects. They skew male and they skew kind of white. And I found it very interesting because they were talking about how this has problems down the road, especially for a lot of the medication that we all take today, is that a lot of it isn't properly tested on women. It's especially not tested on women of childbirthing ages, between 20 and 40, because they don't want to mess up any kind of chances of reproduction or things like that. So for them to, kind of err on the side of safety, they're actually releasing a drug that hasn't really fully been tested on all the different groups that could be taking it. I found that to be an interesting discussion, and I find it interesting that this article goes along with it because, they're trying to find a standard way to test by taking out, I guess, a lot of the biases that happen with the selection process.
Yeah, good point. That's a really good angle on the story. Good one.
It certainly caught my attention yesterday, and I can't believe it came up again today. So there you go. And hey, I'm not a fan of those giant horse pills, so I'm all for chewing.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
That sounds way better. John Fingus, I know that name. Story number 7 in Gadget, and what is this?
This is great, and like you said, John Fingus. I've been a huge fan of his writing for many years.
I don't know how he does it. Ralph, if you want to talk about robots, John Fingus, human or robot? I don't know.
He grinds them out, and he does great stuff for Engadget. So the headline is: Artificial intelligence helps drone swarms navigate through crowded, unfamiliar spaces. Drum roll, please. Even indoors. Okay, this gets interesting. So. A couple of videos too, by the way. Drone swarms, like the one featured in the Super Bowl halftime show, and I think we're all familiar with these hundreds of drones all flying in a coordinated way. They must fly outside in wide open air spaces for a reason. It's difficult for the robotic flyers to navigate in tight spaces without hitting each other, especially, of course, indoors. So the big news is a team of Caltech researchers has developed a machine learning, no surprise, artificial intelligence algorithm to enable drone swarms to fly indoors and through tight spaces. Okay, pretty interesting. Instead of relying on rigid, pre-programmed maps for their new system, let me do that again. Instead of relying on rigid, pre-programmed maps, their new system has each drone learning, emphasize, learning how to navigate a given space on its own, even as it coordinates with other drones in the pack. That just makes my mind melt. This decentralized model helps the drones improvise as the navigation computing is independently spread across many robot drones. Oh my gosh. This breakthrough technology also helps the drones compensate for aerodynamic interactions, such as the downwash from a robot flying overhead. Here's one exciting potential application. This AI-based technology could enable search and rescue drones to safely navigate indoor areas in packs. Wow. I mean, just like, wow.
Carissa, have you ever flown a drone?
I haven't. I really want to, though. They used to have one at work that I never got to play with.
It's fun and very, what would be the word? Not humiliating. What am I looking for? Nerve-wracking, humbling. That's the way. A good drone, powerful drone.
Next time you come to North Carolina, Carissa, I have one sitting on my shelf right now, and I'll go ahead and let you fly it around. It's so like. Maybe I'm just not very good with it and I need more practice, but whenever I'm like heading towards a wall, I'm like, I just kind of freeze up and I'm like, don't hit the wall, but I don't actually move the controls to not hit the wall. If the drone can do that on its own, that would save it a lot of pain.
Well, and Ben, to your point, if the drone could do it on its own as an individual drone and at the same time coordinate, it's learning on its own and also coordinating with its fellow compadres, it's wild.
Yeah, and Carissa, it's not about really needing us because we have not programmed drones with affection yet. So no, they don't need us. As soon as they can make a drone that cuddles, that's when science has gone too far. But I can say that, like Ralph said, with the search and rescue, that's very important. To be able to fly indoors, that's important. The video that I was showing on the video portion when you were talking about it, it really shows like the technology for drones not to hit each other has been there, but what they're doing is they're able to reduce that by like 4 or 5 times, or that, instead of dodging each other and going 10 centimeters difference, they're able to dodge each other and only move like 2 centimeters instead. It's a very, very small adjustment that when you think about, maybe 100 drones altogether, if all of them are kind of overreacting, eventually they're going to start crashing into each other. So this reduces and increases that cohesion that they have. And that technology is going to be useful in pretty much all drone applications. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, fun story.
Story number and what time? Yeah, plenty of time. Story number 8. We're
Yeah.
drone flying right through these things. Story number 8. Let's talk about fingers.
Yes, here we go. Not
I have
the
10 of them.
finger. We're not going to give you the finger here.
Please
No,
count
this
them
is-
again, Carissa.
Here we go. Researchers introduced something called Finger Track, a hand tracking wristband for augmented reality and virtual reality input. Story comes from VentureBeat by Jeremy Horwitz, and we got the link, of course, in a video too, which is really kind of fun, and some illustrations and so forth. So here we go. Virtual reality and augmented. Let me try that again. Virtual reality and augmented reality researchers are now in a race to develop input movement control solutions that will feel more natural than holding bulky handheld controllers. So Ben, I know you're familiar, and Carissa, you are too. You know, you put the VR goggles on, you have some kind of usually large, somewhat bulky hand controllers to augment your movements and so on and so forth.
Like the wands and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the wands or the heavy kind of glove-like things and so forth. It's great. I've used them. They work. It's cool, but you know, it's not as comfortable as they could be. So this month, researchers from Cornell University and the University of Wisconsin announced a joint activity called Finger Track. Finger Track is a small, lightweight, wristband-based control solution that uses 4 miniature thermal cameras to track hand movements in 3D. Wow. It can identify 20 finger joint positions from the contours of the wearer's wrist. Finger Track uses a deep neural network to stitch together input from the thermal cameras mounted around the wrist to capture entire hand poses, which in turn are used to navigate a VR or AR environment. Other potential applications for Finger Track include human-robot interaction and control, sign language translation, and much more. So really fun, and I think it's going to have a big impact, certainly for VR and AR. Yeah, that video clip you're showing right now is so cool, huh?
To be able to model a hand in real time using just thermal cameras. And I guess there in the bottom left, you can kind of see essentially how they associate, you know, bending the different fingers with what the thermal image looks like. And then depending on what the thermal image looks like, you turn that into your input. And it's cool, but at the same time, I'm wondering how it really differs. Like, is it about accuracy? Is it about the ability to, I don't know, just kind of slip it on and be lightweight and, you know, usable for a long period of time? What are the strict advantages over, Ralph, like you said, a bulkier glove with, with buttons and actuators on them?
I don't know. I think the video you're showing right now where someone's handwriting, that might be very difficult to do with a bulkier glove, right? So you can, and plus just the comfort and the the hand-free bit. Again, like grabbing the cup they're showing and so forth. I don't know. I think this is really a good breakthrough.
And way at the beginning, they even showed some of the other technologies, which Ralph, you were talking about with traditional VR and the gloves, like you mentioned, and then I think one of the first, this one, the Leap Motion. Ralph, do you recall the Leap Motion?
I have not used it. No.
Okay. So, and Carissa, do you know anything about the Leap Motion?
Wasn't it for kids?
No, that's Leapfrog. That's a very good. Yes, that's a very good way to teach kids. Highly encourage it. But Leap Motion was this little device, and I think they were purchased by like Facebook or Apple, one of the large tech companies, as most tech products are, purchased by a larger company. It was a little bar that you sit in front of your computer, and you kind of manipulate your fingers on top of it, and it would sense your hand movements and hand gestures like 8 to 12 inches above it. And so there was no gloves, there's no anything like that. So they're showing some of the previous technologies. I'm wondering if anyone is going to come out with some kind of unifying product that, you know, each one individually, like the Leap Motion, the gloves, the wands, the joysticks that you were talking about, and now the thermal camera, as well as, you know, kind of the cameras all around you. I'm wondering how accurate VR can get if you start combining these, because each one individually seems to do what they, you know, each other one could. I'm wondering what happens when you combine them. And that's what I like about this, is that this thermal imaging technology seems like it could be pretty easily combined with all of these other ones.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's good. And oh yeah, Leap Motion. That's a few years ago, right? To
Yes.
refresh my memory. Yeah, because
Yes.
you started describing what it did, it sort of activated a memory I had, but it wasn't a recent memory. So okay, that's cool.
Leap Motion, and I think it was Apple that did it, and they were going to sell it with their Mac Pros and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it had a lot of promise, and it got a lot of attention. I think it was even like a Kickstarter. It might have been, but yeah, someone bigger bought them, and it just it's still available, but. Yeah, so there you go. Hand tracking, all the rage. So there's that story. And Carissa, anything else on that one?
No, I don't think so.
All right, perfect.
It's a fun one.
So many different applications, and I'm looking forward to it. And actually, fun aside that hopefully one day, maybe when I get a new computer, although I could probably do it now, I have my office all set up for virtual reality. So I'm going to, I will have a new play space, and it will be fun.
Cool.
So there you go. Story number 9.
Yay.
I feel like this author doesn't understand what space really implies. So let's get to it.
Yes, it's a kind of a play on words, sort of, kind of. Headline: How about a space station at the bottom of the ocean? Well, I guess if you consider water a space of sorts, not outer space, but
SeaLabs 2020. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, this story I actually researched on 2 publications, primarily Popular Mechanics, a story by Caroline Delbert, and then on CNN, a story by Jacques Palumbo. I hope I'm not butchering that name too much. Both links are there in the show notes. There's a fun illustration here of what this would be, and let's get into it. Fabien Cousteau, if that last name sounds familiar, he's the grandson of the famous underwater explorer and conservationist Jacques Cousteau. So Fabien Cousteau is advocating the construction of what would be the world's largest underwater research station and habitat if it's ever created.
SeaLab 2020.
Yeah, exactly. The old animation show, right?
Well, yeah. And by the way, just real quick, I like how Popular Mechanic even linked to, if you click on this link here, to SeaLab 2021,
yeah, there you go.
which is the Adult Swim remake in the early 2000s of SeaLab 2020, where they kind of redub it and use the old footage.
Oh, I can imagine.
But yeah, it's hilarious. But I digress.
I'll have to check that out.
If you're a fan of the old Ralph, and just another side, and I think Carissa has seen it before. If you're a fan of the old SeaLab 2020 and you like Ralph, I'm assuming you've seen Adult Swim, and they're kind of
yes,
yeah. It is peak Adult Swim. It is wonderful. So, anyways, go ahead.
I'll rush to that tonight. That'll be my excitement.
Please do.
Okay, so back to the story here. It would be a 4,000 square foot modular lab, which would make it 4 times larger than any previous underwater habitat if it's constructed. So this is still a twinkle in the eye. To realize his dream, Fabien Cousteau is collaborating with a team from Northeastern University, which is a private research university in Boston. The plan is to place the 2-story circular structure grounded to the ocean floor on stilts 60 feet underwater off the shore of the Caribbean island of Curacao. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The structure will have space for research labs, sleeping quarters, an underwater greenhouse, and a video production facility to live stream educational programming. That's super cool. And the structure will be powered by wind and solar energy and ocean thermal energy conversion. That's pretty neat. The goal is to have divers live on a facility at the same depth they plan to study, thus eliminating the need to make time-consuming depressurizing pit stops, as it were, required when you dive from the surface down to a deep destination and then back up. The infamous bends issue, right? Mm-hmm. Researchers could spend weeks making hands-on exploration and research their full-time job. And now, reality check, as I was alluding to earlier, the plans aren't finalized by any means. They are very ambitious and will require, no surprise, significant funding partners. But the vision's out there, and Fabien Cousteau is, hoping to get this thing off the ground, and maybe it'll happen.
What a name to have attached to it too, the grandson of Jacques Cousteau. That is definitely something different. Having these stations, I recall there was one that was built. I actually, I do want to say the Caribbean. It was like 25 or 30 feet down. And man, to hear how scientists were living in that environment, even at like 25 or 30 feet was... It was so different. There were so many like little adjustments and things like they could like shake up a can of Coke. Like that was one of their experiments, and they could shake up a can of Coke as much as they want, pull the tab open, and nothing would happen because the pressure, just the general pressure, would keep the Coke from fizzing up and the carbon.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the carbon whatever would keep it from exploding. Like little things like that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how 25 feet or so, and then they want to do even further down, 60 feet I'm sorry, 60
or
feet
more.
underwater.
Yeah.
That's twice as much. That's super hard, and I can't imagine. That's certainly crazy. And Ralph, since you were last on, and Carissa, since you've come on the show. One story before we get to story number 10, and I know NASA, they're always a favorite, but I did want to slip one in there. If, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying content like this, one story that Ralph, I don't think we talked about since you last been on, there are proposals for the next iteration of the Large Hadron Collider. Out there in Europe. I think that's developed by CERN. Did you hear about the proposed, speaking of looking for funding, the proposed successor to the Large Hadron Collider?
Just little bits. So if you've got something to share, go for it.
Yeah. So, and it's a proton collider, and I think it's going to be called not the LHC. It's going to be in Lake Geneva, Large Hadron Collider, the LEP, the Large Electron Positron Collider, and it's going to be 4 times longer, or 27 kilometers, which 27 kilometers works out to like 8 miles or 9 miles of just fully high-tech particle accelerating goodness. I think they're looking for like 10 or like $40 billion, I think, is the price tag, and they're hoping to get it completed by 2040. But yeah, that is a complete different story. But yeah, that's something that happened since you were last on, Ralph.
Yeah. And if I may, Ben, I'm thinking people can come back to the notes and learn about the next story about the Mars rover drone and so forth. But maybe jump to story 11, because I think this is kind of cool, because stay tuned, folks. We're coming on an era of a lot of electrical vehicles, especially pickup trucks. So if we can jump to 11, that would be kind of fun.
Let's go for it. Okay,
so the headline here is GMC has a Hummer all-electric pickup in the works with an amazing range. Comes from an outfit called Electrek.com, story by Fred Lambert. And also, I did research on this in Green Car Reports. And the link is in there, the images and so forth and so on. So let's get into this. There's a video too. The GMC Hummer EV electric pickup is set to hit the market in the fall of 2021, along with a wave of new electric pickup trucks from Tesla. You may have seen theirs. It's very weird design. Ford and others. The new GMC Hummer EV is going to be unveiled this fall, and GM confirmed that it will start taking reservations at that time, so a few months down the road. Here's just a sample of the amazing features. 1,000 horsepower, 11,500 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, removable modular sky panels, and they have a so-called adrenaline mode for high-performance street driving, and a crab mode for off-roading in rough terrain. I think that's hilarious. But most exciting of all, a super fast charging solution with an estimated range of 400 miles. That's what blew my mind.
It does and it doesn't. And 400 miles is amazing for an electric vehicle. But Ralph, talking about batteries for so long, a pickup truck, like I think the reason that we haven't seen too many pickup trucks before is that they have to haul a lot. They have to have a huge towing capacity. They have to be able to do a lot of work, essentially. And, long range with a fully charged battery with nothing in the bed, perfect. Whatever, 400 miles is great. But when this thing is, actually doing work, when it's actually hauling thousands of pounds, when it's going up mountains or, like you said, in crab mode, doing crab things, that battery performance is probably not going to be 400 miles, but that larger battery is going to let it do that for, I guess, a respectable amount of time. So
yeah, what if you could get 200 miles of performance in a towing situation, or
at least a full day of work without having to worry about charging it?
Exactly.
That's what GMC.
That's the point.
And Ralph, what I like about the story is that, I haven't heard GMC, and especially the Hummer line, the historic Hummer line, being a contender in the electric vehicle market. So that's nice.
That is fun.
That is fun. Carissa, would you buy an electric Hummer, or are you against Hummers in general?
I was against Hummers, but this makes me hate them less. Because it is electric, and I don't feel so bad, spewing all that non-gas.
I think
yes, exactly.
So,
I agree.
Mileage of the H2. Does anyone recall off the top of their head what the mileage of the H2 was?
It's like 10.
9 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, see.
So
that ain't gonna fly.
The Hummer line has come a long way. And ladies and gentlemen, there's music playing softly in the background. We, Ralph, Carissa, we are done for the day. It flew by.
Oh, man.
All man indeed. Well,
Stories.
hey, I know. And hey, if you want to check out more Ralph, there's of course the YouTube, there's his website, and hey, next second Friday of the month, he is scheduled to be back on, and we'll make sure that all works out after the show. But Ralph, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, always a blast.
And of course, love having you on. And Carissa, again, thank you for co-hosting, and we expect you back here bright and early Monday afternoon. Absolutely. So everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have fun. And hey, we'll see you back here Monday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.